Okay, we're at Meridian Gardens. We're on the southwest corner of the building, and we're going to do a building walkthrough on the roof here quickly so that you have an overview before the pictures and get an idea what these farms and installations look like. So I'm going to turn it around and put it on wide angle, try to get the best perspective that I can. Alright, installations. These are a couple of dry, clean flare nuts. You can see the insulation type has been wrapped in a tape that's probably not going to stand up to the UV. Our forms of a support here, it's an aluminum rack, C-channel, no rubber or spring isolation. At the feet of the units, we have a form of like 1/4 inch rubber pad, but we're through bolted. See, this one's floppy loose. We got a cork pad here. As what they're trying to do is build up the cork pads for the angle of the roof line because the feet were not leveled. And then, let me zoom out. If you put some pressure on these, you'll see that they move. So this is where they come over and they go into one of the pockets. Our form of disconnect, non-fused, it looks like. I'm not able to tell without opening this up. Then we come over here. They have panduits holding the line sets on top of the strut loosely. We have evidence of oil at flare nuts, visible in a lot of locations. We're going to pop open one of the pockets and see the way that they've weatherproofed the assembly going into the roof line. So looks like spray foam and exclusively spray foam. Okay, now we're facing north. Units 333, 418, 231, 332, 419. Swept line sets. Looks like PDM insulation with some sort of a packaging tape over the top. Conduits supporting. This rack is longer. It's still beveled. I don't know if you can see that there is a belly in this aluminum C-channel, and just with my toe there, this whole rack looks like it's stressing that aluminum weight-wise. So again, if this is C-channel, maybe a central ridge along the top of this channel to provide additional strength, like a piece of L metal. Okay, we're walking west. Units 420, 233, 232, 331, 330, 230. Similar evidence of oil. Sorry, hard for you guys to see. Evidence of oil on the flares indicates a leak. Similar issue. Similar leveling issue. Supports concerning. Let me see if I can get a little better perspective. Porpoising. Okay, we're moving back over to the south. 336, 338, 442, or 422, 238, 337, 421. This disconnects open. Looks like these labels are from the electrician. They're probably going to fall off. Probably should get some phenolics. This insulation right here, water will go inside the insulation, travel through that spray foam, and run down the verticals and the drops. That's going to happen each time that they've done this. Again, walk over here to oil on the flare nuts. Oil on the flare nuts. Equipment tagging isn't evident. They do have a pressure test tag on there, but I don't see a form of appropriate tagging on the units. I could probably figure it out by the electricians disconnects. Walk over here. Now we're in an aisle between two, I don't want to call them dog houses. I guess they'd be rafter bays. And we can see that the structure here supports a product for the equipment to sit on, this bracketry, some form of rubber isolation here, directly bolted there, some rubber feet here. Looks like the bolt's loose on that one. Disconnects suspended off the end. These units, when they defrost, water will pour out of these holes. As you can see, water has came out of them already. That could potentially get into the fan here and then freeze this fan up and cause an issue. It'll also take that cold water and pour it on the back of this freezing coil whenever it's in heat mode, potentially causing an issue. Line sets here are covered. Evidence of oil on the first couple that I'm looking at on these. This one's a different model. Evidence of oil. Evidence of oil on the flares. They tried to do an inverted trap here. They just swept the lines, no form of support. And it's got some panduits, so vertically that's not an appropriate form of support there. Looks like more PDM. At least this one's pointed down so the water won't travel in the insulation and down into the building. Okay, I don't see appropriate tagging on these other than the electricians. Electrician, we're at 227, 327, 326, 226. We're gonna turn around and we're facing south. Disconnects open here. Different form of support against the wall there. That's not a support that should be used in the vertical. That's actual metal that will cut through the insulation into the line sets. Same bracketry, rack system. Okay. We walk around. Similar installation style, swept lines, not bent. Here's a couple of flares exposed. Pretty dry. That one doesn't look bad. One down below doesn't look bad. Disconnect open. These are not an effective disconnect unless this tab is appropriately bent upwards. Even with it bent upwards, you could probably benefit from something holding it there. Again, this form of vertical support. They've already been searching for something here, that's why this insulation's cut. Forms of support here, they just have them laid into the racks. PDM insulation. This is the gel copper brand on the insulation. Okay, we're looking west. We're still on the south side. Unit 423. No discernible tags really. 424. I believe the upper one here is 242, 342. Similar installation. Got a couple exposed flares down here. See, this insulation is already deteriorating. That's going to completely dissolve on the roof. Yep, evidence of oil down on the lower one. Yeah, that insulation's just going to go away. Here they're using that metal band clamp system. You can see how in a vertical piece of strut it's not effective. Okay, we're moving towards the west. Flares. Evidence of oil. Oil not as bad. Insulation deterioration. Oil but not as bad. Let's take a look at a couple of the bolts. Take a look back behind here. Looks like they got a rubber foot there. That bolt's snug. These all look snug. Here we have insulation that's failing. See the water, the copper, the oxygen, they deteriorate this insulation together. That green is everything working to make this like an electrolytic battery. And it's just rotting the insulation out already. This metal band here. Evidence of oil. Whew. Okay, we're working our way to the west. We're down here at Unit 205, still working our way west. We're coming out of these pockets. Similarly, let's see if we can open up a pocket, see if it's the same spray foam style with the last one. So this is working our way to the southwest end of this pod, rafter bay. If I can get that. Okay. So in here, they've clearly ran Romex. There's more Romex. And 600 volt. Hopefully that's the communication wire. Yeah. So they've used this probably 14.4 indoor to outdoor communication wire, and then Romex as feeder for the power for the condensers. Okay. That one's looks dry. Okay, we're looking our way back towards the east. Now we're going to walk over to the north. We'll just get a quick overview of what we're looking at here. Similar installation, similar concerns. I'm just step back a little ways so you can see what we're looking at. This pocket here looks pretty poorly made up. Forms of support. Hand bent lines, forms of support. Hitch pocket. Disconnect concerns. Flares. That one looks dry. Okay. Well, nothing new. They all kind of look like what we've been seeing. Now this is a rafter bay here. And inside of here, some of the line sets actually come inside. Here's an example of a line set assembly that they have laid over top of stuff instead of leveling it. Same gel coat insulation, and I'm not sure where it's coming and going to, but it's headed clearly to a drop of some sort. That's just plumber's tape. So I assume that's probably upheld everywhere that it's ran. It's probably just using plumber's tape and laid over trusses, not leveled and bundled. Okay, we're going to go down to what will be the west end. Here we have pods again. This is looking north, north, west, southwest. Okay. So again, they're trying to level up the feet of the unit using cork pads. Looks like not very well. Reminder, there's no springs on that. That's the aluminum itself giving. If somebody steps on that, they'll probably collapse it. So coming out of this pocket here, insulation's deteriorating, pulling apart. Looks like they were aware of it and tried just putting a piece of tape here. The stuff shrinks over time. That's why these zip ties are on here. They know it. And because it's shrinking, it's pulling these joints away. And it's going to continue to do that anywhere there's a break in the insulation or it deteriorates in half. They haven't wrapped these with tape like they did over on the other side. But you can see here, these bands are making their way into the copper. You see the green? That green is the insulation itself deteriorating with this metal band, and it will cut right through that line set. So lines are basically draped in here. Forms of identification. No placards anyways. Not evident on the equipment. Just disconnects. At this point they could be identified by the disconnects. You can see here they have a disregard for what's going to happen to this this line set, these forms of support. Let's see. That's what's happening to the insulation inside. So as it deteriorates, which you can see this is falling apart. You will lose your ability to maintain your superheat and subcooling on your pipes. That'll throw the equipment into an unsafe condition and possibly damage the equipment or put it into a mode where it's running so hard that it can't keep up. Okay, we're moving here towards the west. They've tried a different type of tape here. Not effective. This looks like Nashua 557 tape. So this is made for inside of a building. It's lost its adhesive qualities. Metal banding clamp. No evidence of oil on these ones. Forms of support, no. Same issue with the racks. Leveling, here they've thrown a rubber round isolation on top of a cork pad, but then they smashed it down so hard with the bolt, made any vibration isolation ineffective. So, kind of a useless attempt at isolation. This one has oil on it. Here they put some marking tape on it. I'm not sure why. You can see that we're degrading down here at the pocket. Okay, these were units 210, 211, 406, 207, 208, 209. Now we've just turned back towards the north here. 213, 214, 215, 212, 314, 315. Same issues. You can see the insulation. Yeah, insulation's it's gone already. It's already ruined. It's falling apart here. I give it 18 months. This will all be gone. It's actually hollow inside. You see what my fingers are doing? Insulation's not even. It's nothing. It's just the vinyl wrapper already. Ultraviolet oxygen contact with water, and that one's got oil traveling with this. Water, oxygen, copper, whatever plastics that are degrading in here. Forms of support, more metal banding. This not being a straight section of copper before they make the flare typically makes that flare an oval shape, sort of like a football. It's unlikely that that flare is going to hold. That's why hand bending versus using a bender is a less desired way of doing it. They tried leveling again with the pads. Whew. Hand bent, metal band clamps, no insulation quality left. By that I mean like R value. Rubber pads that are just, yeah, the sun smashed to the point to be ineffective. There's no reason to have a rubber pad if it's that squished. Okay, I'm going to walk to the east here. Unit 311, disconnect open, 312, 313, 408, 409. Let me point something out on these. If these disconnects end up open, water will move through these conduits and go down inside of the building. So these need to have some sort of a keeper to keep the doors closed. They work fine, but they can allow water in. Okay, more insulation degradation. You can see there, it's eroding the copper and the insulation. Tape's gone. Just a hollow husk. Looks like a snake skin. And the Nashua tape's gone. That metal's going to be there to make sure it cuts a hole through the copper once the insulation's deteriorated. Flares don't look bad on that one. Evidence of oil on that one. Okay. And then let's take a look at the rack. So right here in the middle with my hand. Okay, pretty much seen the majority of issues up here on the roof. Let me take a look back here. This would be the south facing rafter bay. And yeah, here we go again. Line sets that they're not level. I don't know that there's a form of support or what exactly they're doing. They're kind of just coming in here. Yeah, those ones are down there, diving in and out of the insulation. Let's see, hopefully the door doesn't close on us. Yeah, looks like plumber's tape strapping it down to a beam, and then they just kind of strung it through the rafter bays. It's possible that the pocket drops them in between these rafter bays below the roof line, and then they went underneath the roof line over into this area and transitioned to where they dropped down in the building. Because the sidewalls are not being utilized for entrances with the line sets. Okay, so what I've been seeing is the racks themselves, they're bowed. That aluminum is not strong enough for the weight. Flare leaks, lack of identifying placards on the condensers themselves, insulation degradation, leveling absent, forms of support for the line sets in the vertical absent, horizontal forms of support inappropriate. No shielding from the elements, no wind baffles. It's windy up here. The units that are facing into the wind should probably have an appropriate baffle. The stacked units have the ability to dump their water onto the unit below when they defrost. The electricians disconnect doors are open on about 10% of this type of disconnect. Line sets slope into the pockets, carrying water inside of the building. The spray foam in the pocket doesn't go directly to bare copper. It goes to the insulation, which means that the sealing of the line set isn't complete between outdoor and indoor. Many of the flares seem to be leaking. No refrigerant charge or line set length information is indicated on the outdoor units. Yeah, there's quite a few concerns here as far as whether or not these units meet the installation guidelines from LG. They would probably agree with most of what I have to say. The other thing is a lot of the bolts on the units either excessively tight or not tight at all. There doesn't seem to be any form of real isolation for vibration or sound. If the bolts are that tight, then they're really not doing their job effectively. And that's what I have to show you guys for this video today. Meridian Gardens, Nathan Beasley, American Heating. Thank you.